Well, another episode of the Ice Team podcast. Rumor has it this is number 55.
Yeah.
My lucky number's 5.
I just checked, but I also just forgot. 55. Got a lot going on here today.
Yeah, it's how many days left in 2024?
Monday after holidays is just chaos.
Yeah.
And we have New Year's Eve tomorrow. So it's like you know, you got to get stuff done today.
Yes. So this is the last podcast of the year.
Yes. Naturally, we just decided to film a podcast amongst all the other stuff that's happening here at Climb Outdoors.
I think it's a reprieve from the chaotic. You and I can sit here like in a closet and just talk.
Yeah, just turn off everything. We should just turn the lights off, just only talk ice fishing.
My kids
Close your eyes.
Get the LED lights now and put them in their bedrooms.
Oh, really?
So they can set like the ambiance. So like Jack actually took out the only light he had in his room, like this cool lamp, huge lamp, you step on the button, it lights up. Took it out and literally lined the room with LED lights. That's his light source.
Why?
It actually illuminates the room very well. And he can change them from like blue to white to red.
Are we talking like Amazon LED lights or like clam?
I'm talking cheap
Flex
Amazon 4. Stick them across the ceiling. And all my kids do that. So like maybe that's what needs to be done in here. I don't know. We can do that. Cool. So we're going to kind of go off on a tangent today. We thought make sense to hit something at the end of the year, talk a number of different topics. Yeah. Maybe talk about some elephant in the room stuff on just things you need to do just to catch fish, right?
Yeah. Well, we've been on the ice now. Truthfully, leading up to the last couple weeks, we haven't been on the ice much because we've had so much work stuff happening and ice conditions, whatever. We got good ice now, and we went on the ice the last couple weeks, and doing that, you actually get some new ideas that pop in your head when you're actually ice fishing versus just talking about it all fall.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, we should touch on the conditions. It's hair.
Conditions.
Here's the silver line in the conditions I've seen. I've been out the last several days in a row. The snow was our saving grace.
Oh, yeah. It was a buffer.
Because that rain that came through on Friday that we sat in all day just dropped that snow. It really didn't impact the ice at all. Now, I saw a little change in the last couple of days. I'm not going to lie. Mostly around the shoreline.
It was funny getting on the ice on Saturday midday. I had to break through a little bit of ice my first couple steps, like through into the mud until I got to that 8-9 inches of hard solid ice. And it's from all the snow melting. I was going on the north side of a lake too, which is the bad spot. Melted, deteriorated the rim of the lake just for the first maybe 3 feet, and then it was solid.
We still saw 10 inches ice this weekend. We did not lose a lot. It's foggy. If you look at what's coming down the next week, I think I saw
it's going to be cold,
single digits coming again. So we're going to be just fine.
We will have some thick, clear ice here in a week and a half. It's going to be good.
And we kick off our first UPL, Ultimate Panfish League event, this Sunday up on Pokegama. It should be interesting. So if you're tuning into this, I don't know when this is going to come out or not.
Hopefully tomorrow.
And they have... we have a pile of teams competing. Should be interesting. We were there on Friday.
Yep.
The bite's good.
There's a lot of fish there.
Are we going to see 10 pounds? Maybe. The guys and gals in this league are pretty darn good. We'll see. But we didn't catch 10 pounds on Friday for our best 15.
The conditions right now, like we said, the snow melted. The ice isn't super thick yet. The fish are spooky, man. I've been on 3 different lakes in the last week, and every lake... I've seen it on the live scope. You walk over to the fish and they scatter.
Hyperspeed,
Yeah, it's the conditions aren't great, and that goes for probably most lakes that are relatively clear, not wickedly deep, where the fish are actually roaming. Like, you got to be slow. It pays sometimes just hunker down in one spot, I think.
Yeah.
Whether it's a transition area or maybe over a crib or something like that. Like, you just got to take it easy. Don't be running and gunning nonstop, because guess what? You're going to be pushing these fish out.
Yeah, you're spot on.
Chasing your tail.
And I think another thing, too, with that is this is the time of year, or this is the style of fishing where you want to find structure, something that holds the fish. So, like, what I've noticed is your basin fish, your flat fish, your roamers, your nomadic fish, they're on hyperdrive. They're flying. Now, if you can find, you mentioned a crib, if you could find a weed bed, if you can find an inside turn that has some weeds, if you can find a reef, something to draw the fish in, they seem to kind of be living there, not passing through. And I've noticed that has given me more success the last few days. Yeah.
I honed in on literally one stick yesterday. I was fishing an area that has a bunch of timber in it. Yeah. And you move out into the basin and it's more just sand, open bottom, and these fish are running and gunning, and there's a lot of them. But I could not catch up to them, and I'm panning my live scope. I'm like, oh, there's like a stick vertical, right? I go over to it. They all spook, but I stayed right there, drilled one hole, and they eventually would come right back through.
Yeah.
It was like it's just a point, an interest point, right? And they're going to come back through that spot.
Yeah, it's funny because on Friday, I know we were out there, and I noticed that the fish did not like, we already know about cleats, right? Cleats are a gift and a curse. You want to have them so you don't slip and fall and get hurt.
Safety, yeah.
But you also know that they scare the fish.
Yep.
But what I noticed on Friday more than anything was the fish hated that sloshing sound of your boots walking around through the wet slush. Like more than cleats, they just darted away. That must echo, and I'm not a scientist, so if anyone's listening or watching and wants to chime in, there must be some type of noise that emits through the ice. The slot. I watched him fly away from us.
It blows my mind. Before forward-facing sonar, I could have been fishing all day Saturday and yesterday Sunday, and I would have had my Vexlar, and I probably would have thought there's no fish in this area. When I look around with my forward-facing, there's thousands, but they are literally avoiding me so much because they hear my footsteps. It's wild.
Yeah. So hunker down, maybe see if they push through.
Yeah.
And that's something I noticed on Friday too. Is I just stopped moving.
Yep.
I just said I'm going to stay in one spot, and I don't think I was on top of more fish than anyone else. I just think that they came through and they didn't care I was there at that point. They weren't on high alert, and I could catch them.
Yeah.
And I found myself routinely catching more fish by not doing what we preach and just staying in one spot.
Yeah.
But it was a nice day, 30 degrees.
Find fishy areas, I guess.
Yeah.
They'll come back through.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're there to start with. They want to be there. You might freak them out, but they'll come back.
And I'm anxious to see what these teams do on Sunday out there, because I don't see much changing in what we've just discussed between now and Sunday. Now, we might get some of that sloshiness to freeze up. It looks like we're going to get hard ice. We're not going to get any snow. I don't see much snow coming between now and Sunday. So you're not going to get that barrier between you and the fish, the light penetration stuff. Maybe we gain a couple more inches of ice. So I'm anxious to see this style of fishing in tournaments is they get up and go. You don't even see a fish trap there.
So let's dull it down even more, Matt, tournament fishing. Because when I was thinking to myself on Saturday and I was spooking all these fish, I was like, man, I would be spinning out if this was a tournament. But to go even one step further, I was thinking, I'm like, I don't even know what I would bring out here if I was in a tournament. Like, you've run tournaments for years. I've seen tournaments for years. I haven't fished in them, but I've been around it enough to know that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in preparation, gear, strategy. We've talked to the Team USA stuff, and that's a whole another realm of deals. But like, let's just say you're in a UPL Ultimate Panfish League tournament, and you want to sign up. You want to go fish. What do you need?
Yeah,
like,
a partner.
A partner.
We don't have to have one. We have some guys and gals that fish solo, but yes, you want to find a partner. Obviously, in most tournament circuits or any tournaments that I know of now, you either have to have an ATV or a snowmobile.
So you don't
drive your truck out of your car out during tournaments.
So no vehicles.
No. Pre-fishing, knock yourself out, do whatever. But tournament day,
ATV, UTV, golf cart,
and you can walk, but
sled.
You're probably going to get whooped. I'm just being blunt. So you're going to want something to get around.
Yep.
You're going to want to probably prioritize the gear that you bring, meaning less is more. You need to be efficient. You need to be mobile. So loading up a Voyager Thermal X with all kinds of augers and bait boxes and totes of rods and heaters, you're not doing it.
No.
Most of these guys don't even have a heater with them unless it's a really cold day. And the only reason they do that is because they set up their fish house at the very end to sort their fish.
Yep.
That's about the only time you see them set up a fish house. So they're bringing the right amount of rods they think they need.
Yep.
Usually 6 to 10 rods is probably what I'm guessing per person. Sounds like a lot, but they don't want to be retying.
All these rods are, you can grab them right off the side of the machine.
100%.
See, everyone has the 4-position rod holders, whatever kind of rod holders. It's just a grab and go.
Yep.
No cases. You're not digging it out. It's just, that is my whip and I need it right now.
Yep. They put their stuff through quite a bit of abuse tournament day.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Knowing that, so it's one thing if you and I go to Lake of the Woods and we bring our rod bag and, we want everything nice and neat. And we're carrying into the fish house. I get it. Totally makes sense. Look at Chris Grander, guides up on Rainy. Probably needs to put stuff in a rod bag. He's ripping 20 miles to a spot. These guys and gals aren't doing that. They're ripping 200 yards, 100 yards to a spot. Quick,
Drilling
quick.
Hole,
Yeah.
checking it.
And so they're using electronics. Forward-facing sonar is the norm.
Yep.
We've talked about this a dozen times on the show. We don't need to
Yep,
get
yep.
in the weeds. They bring their down and dirty electronics, whether it's a flasher or something to actually get on top of the fish and catch them.
Yep.
Camera usually doesn't come out tournament day, but it does pre-fishing as much as anything else they own.
Mm-hmm.
They are cameraing all the spots they fish because it's not enough to be on top of the fish. It's what kind and what size. Catching crappies doesn't win you a tournament. Catching big crappies helps you win a tournament. So
I find it interesting. I feel like cameras get overlooked sometimes,
100%,
especially in the last couple of years since forward-facing sonar, but they've been around for over a decade. Like the camera does not lie.
no,
My live scope, I've been fishing for walleyes that I thought were I've been fishing for suckers that I thought were walleyes. Like that thing was lying to me and I had to figure it out the hard way.
Yep.
If I would have dropped a camera down, I'd have been like, okay, that's a nice sucker.
Yep.
It's not a walleye.
Yep. You watch these guys pre-fish. One guy's got an auger. One
Yep.
guy's got a camera. Now, if you're basin fishing, it's different. Now, if you're chasing fish in 20 to 35 feet of water running around, they're probably not cameraing that as much. You probably know that school of fish 5-10 feet off the bottom over a basin is probably bluegills and crappies. It's safe to say. Now, when you get shallow flats, mud flats, in-tight turns, weeds, cribs, they're cameraing all those spots because it's not enough. Like I said, take, for example, Pokegama on Sunday. If all you catch is 10-inch crappies, you will not win that tournament. I don't care if you catch 200 of them.
No.
They need to be 11s and 12s, maybe a 13-inch kicker. So specific spots, like the spot we were on Friday, the big ones weren't there. We could tell that after probably 2 hours.
I think
10 guys rifling through fish.
Mike Ryman, he was there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He's a solid tournament guy.
yeah.
He was gone. He's like, I'm going to go catch big ones immediately.
Yeah.
And we're just like, well, we just need hook sets and stuff.
And content, yeah.
Content.
And I think the biggest one I
He's gone.
caught, I think I rifled through 100 crappies on Friday. I caught one that was 12.
Yeah, 112.
One. And, if you look at what comes in on Sunday, and I could be wrong, I might be eating crow, you're going to see some teams that have multiple 12-inchers in their bag. So that's important. I think to dull it down, though, like you said, you need to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. The biggest thing I see anglers do when they come into a circuit like the UPL and struggle is I think they underestimated the plan. It's not that they're not good at fishing. They don't have the right gear. Most of these guys and girls that come in, they have a nice snow machine. They have the best rods. Correct. They have the gear. They have the live scope. They have it all. It's just they underestimate the plan
strategy is the difference.
and the work, the sweat equity that goes into finding these fish. Tournament fishing is won. 90% of tournament fishing is won before the tournament starts. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, it's the pre-fishing.
Strategy.
It's okay, you get to your spot. A lot of guys and gals tournament fishing, they find the winning spot. A lot of them do. But what if 4 teams get there before you?
Backup plan.
And what if you don't have a backup plan?
You're scrambling, spinning.
Correct. You need to have, and these guys will tell you they have A spots, B spots, C spots. You got to have multiple A spots.
So, Kip Ingolson was out there with us on Friday.
Yep.
He tournament fishes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We posted a video of him just ripping on his quad, and we had so many questions. Well, not so many, but we had a handful of questions asking about his machine because you don't see a machine like that every day.
Yeah.
That thing is rigged up for ice fishing and tournament fishing. So he has, let's start from the front. He had a big old cargo area
Picture of it here
where he can put, I'm assuming, buckets, tackle, whatever he can strap down there, right? Rod holders on each side. Okay, so there's like 8 rod holders on the thing already. Same with Gazzoni's 4-wheeler that was out there. Big tires, lifted big tires. He can bomb through snow drifts.
Thought I had a picture.
Through slush. Like he's rarely going to get stuck in that machine. Working your way to the back. He even had like a bucket holder. I want to talk about buckets. So every one of those guys needs to bring their fish in water, right?
Bucket or a cooler.
And it can be negative 10 degrees all day. Like how are they taking care of these fish? What are they doing? How are they keeping that thing from freezing up? Kip had like a drain on the bottom of his bucket. It's a homemade bucket.
Yeah.
He put a little pump. He has a aerator that runs from his quad or something into the bucket to freshen up the water, and a drain. He drilled a drain in at the bottom.
Yep.
Like this guy's really thinking about it, and it's on a custom mount that goes into his hitch.
Oh yeah.
Like, do I need that if I'm gonna fish a tournament?
I mean, here's the thing: is you want to keep your fish alive. Obviously, it's tournament fishing in the wintertime. a lot of these fish are going to die. I'm going to cut to the chase. A lot of them are going to die. They're going to be, a lot of these fish are caught in the first couple hours of the day.
Yep.
They're riding around in a bucket all day long. They might be flopping around come weigh-in time, but they're pretty toast, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the nature of the beast. Most of these anglers go home with a nice meal when the tournament's over. They're going home with a nice meal. So, but you want to do your best to keep these fish alive. You don't have frozen rock solid, all that kind of stuff, right? We frown upon that. So you'll see a lot of anglers now use a cooler. They'll dedicate a Yeti or a Grizzly or something to their live well, basically an onboard live well, and they run a pump through it. They keep that. It's crazy because we had a tournament a few years ago where it was like 20 some below zero to start, and we had live fish at weigh-in.
Yeah,
live fish. And some of these fish were in these coolers all day, double digits below zero the entire day, and these fish came in flopping when you dumped them into the weigh trough. So do you need that? No. But just throwing your fish in a bucket, you're going to have problems. Your fish are going to freeze to the side of the bucket. You're going to break off fins. You're going to do a number of things. Those are things we definitely frown upon. So at least at a minimum, bucket, water, aerator, it'll keep that water moving throughout the day.
Because when you weigh them up, you're dumping your 15 fish, whatever it is, onto the table.
Yep.
The water is falling through. Some of it's going to freeze on the fish, but not, I mean, that's, like you said, nature of the game.
Yep.
And then you're weighing them. So if you have a fish that has a bunch of, like, you can't weigh a frozen fish if it's like solid, because that's adding weight.
Correct.
Yeah. So they got to be, they got to be moving.
Yeah, we don't really see any hard as a rock frozen fish. I mean, we have in the past, but I would say the last 5 years, anglers are pretty good. We do a bucket check at the beginning of the tournament. We like to think no one's cheating. We've never had a problem in the UPL, anything like that. But we do a bucket check. We go through, we look, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
so the bucket, in terms of like bass fishing, the bucket is your live well.
Correct.
Keep fresh water in it. Mm-hmm. You know, the fish should handle as much as they can in it.
Yeah, and they bring their bucket to weigh in, and people get excited when you get to see what they catch.
And people lose their buckets along with everything else from their machines. I've seen it. I've been to like 2 tournaments, and I could have loaded up a full-on ice fishing rig with just scraps.
It's a yard sale. Yeah, we do takeoff. We do 4 flights, 30 seconds apart, and we do that so that 1, no one gets hurt. You don't need a shotgun start. People are going to hit each other. 2, it spreads things out a little bit. Okay. Gives people a chance to, and then we rotate. Everyone gets a chance to go first and last. So we do a random draw at the beginning of the season. So whoever goes first on Sunday will go second the following event, then third, then fourth. So everyone gets to go first, second, third, fourth. You just go down a row.
Okay.
So everyone gets a chance to do it. So there's a little, it's not as climatic at the beginning of the year, because you know, like right now, what position you're going to go at event 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
But that's okay. You can plan for it. It kind of adds a little bit of strategy. And these teams just, they book it. I mean, I've seen full airborne snowmobiles and ATVs at takeoff. Full airborne. They hit snow drifts.
Yeah, you better be lifting your skis
on
off.
full takeoff. So it's crazy. So the yard sale's real.
All right. So you get ready, you get your machine decked out, you got a strategy, you yard sailed out to your first spot. A lot of these guys are combat fishing, aka fishing in the same areas, community holes, weed beds, whatever. They're by each other. What is the like? How close can you fish to another person? Let's be like.
I mean,
how does that work?
You know, we do have distance constraints. We used to allow people to come in and fish by you. So, like, if I was next to you and I was going to break the distance constraint, I could be like, Drew, that's fine. You can fish by me. Well, the new rule we have, because we're trying not to build alliances, or alliances exist in tournament fishing. It has forever.
It does in professional bass fishing.
Elite series bass fishing.
Yeah.
So the rule we have now is if I let you in to fish by me, I then am allowing any team to fish by me. So you can still allow them to come fish by you, but now it opens the door for, so you can't be like, yes, Drew, you can fish there. No, Bob, you cannot. So we have a little leniency in the league. We've never had an issue with it. We've never had somebody overstay their welcome. And we've had teams that are like, hey, dude, like, don't come any closer. You're at the distance. And no problem. And they back up. So, like, there is that.
So, like, let's say we're not an alliance, but you get there first. I wanted to be there. I have to go find a different spot.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and I have the power at that point to say, hey, Drew, can you back off the spot a little bit? Now you can get pretty close still.
Close, like 10 yards? Like, what are you talking
We just changed the rule. I don't want to misquote, but I'll tell you in 13 seconds here. We just changed the rule in the UPL this year to the distance is now, because it was, let's see, Let's see. Distance constraints. Teams must respect no fishing within 15 feet.
So 15.
So you're talking
steps.
5 yards.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty close.
Unless invited by said team, like we said, which at that point allows every single team to do the same thing. So we also said no fishing within 10 feet of a permanent fish house. Mm-hmm. We've had some teams over the years literally lean up on top of the fish house.
Yeah.
And we're not having that anymore. So, and I'm not saying that, probably ethically not the right thing to do. So we're going to avoid all that. So, but you'll see, you've been to these events.
Oh yeah.
You'll see 5 teams in a 30 by 30 yard area.
Yep.
Fishing and talking to each other and watching each other catch fish. It's kind of entertaining.
Well, I've seen sometimes, you get a school of, let's call it crappies. There might be 30 fish and they're just balled up, moving in a bunch in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
So if I set up 30 feet from you or whatever, like I might not be marking them, but I know they're going to come back through.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're on like a weed bed and you're fishing like a single cabbage stock or something, it's like you got to be on that spot.
Yeah.
And that's when I can't kick you out or whatever. Like
I've seen it.
I'd play defense at that point. Like if I'm on the spot and I know I have to fish this hole all day, I ain't letting anyone in.
I've seen it to where teams are catching fish side by side, 4 feet apart. You and me are a team, and somebody is 4 steps away.
Yeah.
And they're not catching a fish. I've seen it before, especially we've talked about this in past episodes, the corridors in the weeds, the sweet spot in the weeds. Like there are spots where only fish use. And if you are 4 feet off, you don't get bit. Mm-hmm. So 100% I've seen that. Okay. Teams get frustrated and they're like, I'm out of here. Nope, new spot.
So we battle all day on the lake. Now we have our limit of 8 and 7. Is that how
so you get, in the UPL, you get 15 total fish, 7 and 7, 7 crappies, 7 gills. Once you catch your 7 and 7, you can have your 15th bonus of whatever species you choose.
Oh, so if I catch 7 crappies immediately, I can't put the 8th.
You can put it in there. You can put the 8th in your bucket because you're legal in Minnesota. You can have 10 per person.
Oh.
So so what happens is a lot of these teams will go and catch their 8 crappies and they'll put them in a bucket. Well, you can't weigh that 8th crappie until you get your 7 gills. So
it's just,
so if you and I go chasing bluegills the rest of the day and we only catch 6, we can only weigh 7 crappies and 6 gills, and that 8th crappie's got to be staying in your bucket. So, and we've seen that. Actually, my kid, Jack and Rich on green, had 10 pounds and didn't weigh a limit because they couldn't get their gills. They had a 1 pound crappie sitting in a bucket of water that could not be added to their weight because they had 7 crappies and like 5 or 6 bluegills.
Wow.
And it happened to Todd Forcier and Jeff Kelm too on Washington. I remember that day, same thing. They had like a 1.3 crappie.
Large.
Like a 13-incher in their bucket that they couldn't weigh because they needed another bluegill.
How far away from your partner can you fish?
50 feet. You have to stay within 50 feet of your partner.
Really?
Yeah. So that's one of the rules. We don't want somebody to run across the lake. So you have to stay within 50 feet. What if,
I see a fish 60 feet away on my live scope? Can I step 10 feet away and then he goes 50? Or can I stay at the live scope and look?
Technically, he's supposed to follow you and stay within 50 feet. Now, the rules fudged oftentimes, and all the teams do it.
You just don't want a guy going 100 yards away. That's
the whole reason for the rule. Now, we're not going to go measure it off. We've had people call and say, hey, can you come check so-and-so is too far from his partner? And we've gone over there and said, hey, get a little closer, and that ends it, right? No problem. Sorry, my bad. But, yeah.
It's, so you're a team. Stay together.
Correct.
Don't get far.
Yeah. So,
okay. Wow.
Makes it interesting.
Let's say you have a really solid bag or a bucket. Can you weigh early?
Sure. I've had teams that are at noon go, I'm done. I'm frozen. Can I weigh my fish? Oh, yeah. And oftentimes what they'll do is I'm usually set up by lunch and cooking brats. So that's where the weigh-in is, and teams know that. We've had teams come in at noon or 1, weigh-ins at 2, noon or 1, and be like, we've had enough. Here's our bucket of fish. And a lot of times we'll just sit on the bucket until weigh-in so they can, and they'll hang out. That happens. I guarantee it'll happen at least once or twice this winter where somebody's just like, I've had enough. Or maybe a partner got sick and they had to go home, and then the one guy's left by themselves. And at 1 o'clock, they're like, you know what? I'm drained at this too. So they certainly can.
We're weighing in.
Yeah, we've seen it where people weigh in.
Can you fish 2 lines a person?
One line per person.
One line.
We got
So
one line per person.
legally in Minnesota, you can fish 2, but in the UPL,
Correct.
it's one line.
Correct.
Okay.
And your live scope is a line. So if you punch a hole, you can't leave your live scope in the water.
Okay.
It's an active hole. So basically each team gets 2 active holes to fish out of. Your live scope being in one is considered an active hole. So either fish out of the same hole as your live scope or you take it out of the water. And we did put a rule in this year. In extreme conditions, you can keep it in.
What if I'm in down mode?
Then you can fish out of the hole.
But can my partner can't though? Fish out a different hole?
Yeah, he gets his own hole too. But that hole that has your live scope in it is your active hole.
Oh,
so
got
you
it.
can't.
Yeah.
So you can't.
I can't
leave
like
your
have my
live
live
scope
5 feet away
and then go and fish another hole.
Gotcha.
No, that would be breaking the rule. So the only exception to that would be in extreme conditions. So if we get another day where it's below 0, I don't want anybody breaking their live scope fishing a UPL event.
Yeah.
Damaging their property. So if they want to keep it in there so the Deucer doesn't freeze up, we have made an exception, and that'll be known the morning of the tournament. Like, hey, by the way, you're allowed to keep your live scope in the water today. It's only going to be a high of 0. No problem.
Yeah.
Don't make it a problem, and we'll
Here's
be good
what
to go.
Garmin needs to do with live scope is they need to have a quick command where you can change from forward to down view because it's like 4 clicks right now. It's like the little 3-dot thing, installation, orientation, something. It takes a couple seconds to get there. I want it to be like, boom, down view. Because so many times I'm looking, I'm scanning, I'm like, okay, there's fish 60 feet. Oh God, there's one swimming right at me. And I want to quick hit down view to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can see my jig, but most times I can't. I got the 34. And I just want to be in down view so I can fish it like I normally would with
You
any.
could see my jig from 60 feet away.
What do you mean? What?
You could see my jig from 60 feet away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just, that's a random thing, but
No, I think that's coming.
is active target like that?
Oh, well, Eagle Eye, you can just go forward or down. The new Eagle Eye.
But how many clicks does it take you to get there? I want 1 click. I want to be like down, forward, like quick
active
command.
target. That's what I run from Lorenz. I have to like go into my settings, change it, reorientate. But I'm usually just looking at what's in front of me.
I know. I've just kept like I was fishing last week and I have my Vexilar and my live scope and I was by myself. Okay. So like I'm scanning around and like all of a sudden I'd see a pack of fish swimming at me. I have 2 options. I can either do 4 clicks or 3 clicks, whatever, to get to down view and fish the hole, or I can take the whole stick out of the hole, put my Vexilar in, and then just hope that the fish are coming at me.
Yeah.
I leave my live scope in, even in down view, I can see if those fish have skirted me 10 feet and I'm not just sitting there. And then I can quick do a couple more clicks and go back to forward and be like, oh, they skirted me 30 feet that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I think the down view is sweet. Like I look at the guys that are getting set up on like walleye spots for the evening bite.
It's
Like
so
I can't wait. We're going to Lake of the Woods in a week.
It's
next
so
week.
fun, man.
I'll probably be set up in down view the whole time.
I didn't even hardly use my Vexilar.
Yeah.
I did a few times, but in general, like it's fun to watch the fish come. You can see how big they are.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, the thing's 2 feet long. It's probably pike or walleye.
Like watching Tom fish it for the first time this year.
Oh, just like a kid in a candy store.
He just sits there and giggles.
Yeah.
Technology's cool.
So teams got 1, maybe 2 live scopes, 1 backup live scope sometimes.
Some teams will each have their own, but usually tournament day, they don't get used a lot. You'd be surprised. Pre-fishing, a lot. Tournament day, they find them. Okay, they're still here, and they put it away. It's pretty common, and they just get after it. I mean, you watch these guys tournament day, they're not running around with live scope like you would think.
I'd like to see how they do this week on Pokegama because I think those fish are going to get pushed around even on tournament day.
I don't think they're going to be on that spot. Most of the teams are going to go find something isolated. Knowing these teams and knowing Pokegama, you're going to see people focusing on specific spots on a spot.
I've seen some basin, like if we're talking actual basin crappie hole type stuff, like where the fish don't really leave. They're going to be there no matter what. But I've also had times like on Saturday where I'm like, man, I don't know. If I didn't have my forward face, I didn't catch many fish, but I could see where they were. Like I'd be lost.
Yeah.
It'd be like if I rewinded 15 years ago and showed up to the lake without my Vexilar. I'd be like,
yeah.
What do I grab, a bobber? Like
probably work. Well, it's like Friday we watched that as the day progressed.
Yep.
All the fish pulled off of the structure.
Yeah,
they just roam nomadically 2 feet deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, we're up in 13 feet, big reef. They were on it all morning. By 9, 10 o'clock, granted, we made a lot of noise. But regardless, this would have happened anyway, I promise you. They just slid out 20, 30, 50 yards and just roamed, meandered around that flat, and that's where they live all day until the sun starts to drop, and they kind of slowly slide back up to the structure. And, that's pretty much the gist of that bite is, we started beating our head against the wall as the day progressed.
So, in general, I guess tournament fishing, we've talked about it a decent amount here. You got to have a good machine of some sort if you want to be competitive.
Yep.
Good electronics. Let's just be honest here. Having more or higher quality electronics will help you find fish.
Yes.
Pre-fishing and all that stuff, and even on tournament day. You need a good partner that has a good strategy, teamwork. You can't fight each other on the ice. I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard stories. We don't need to talk about them here, but it happens. And then keep your fish alive in a bucket as best you can.
Yeah.
Bring them back not frozen.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah, and be
courteous.
more than one-dimensional.
More than one-dimensional.
Be willing to adapt. We talked about spots, B spots, C spots, moving, grooving. Plan for the worst-case scenario. And I don't mean that catastrophically. Plan that your first 2 spots are going to have someone on them. Just know it. And if they don't, great. Go into tournament day knowing I'm going to need to come up with a plan B, C, and D. I'm going to have to do that. What is it? Those are the teams that do the best.
Yep.
They don't go, I got this. I know where I'm going to go. Slam dunk, pounded them yesterday, because 9 times out of 10, 4 other teams know of that same spot, and they're racing you there or they're next to you, and now you're trying to do what you think you should have done on Thursday, pre-fishing, with no one else around. Well, now you got 4 other teams next to you blocking your path. Changes the dynamic. So if you spin out, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, you don't want to spin out.
No.
So basically have the proper equipment and gear to get you through a day of complete abuse.
Correct.
On everything, and then have a good strategy, A, B, C, D, a lot of backup plans.
Yes.
Get back. What happens if let's say you're on your way back and your machine breaks down?
Call one of us.
Call one. I mean, you're pretty lean. Like everyone has to break something on tournament day.
Yeah, I mean, basically what happens if somebody breaks down, what happens is another team will go help, and then at a minimum, rip one of those anglers back with their bucket of fish.
Yeah.
So they make it back in time and not get DQ'd to lose any points. And then they figure it out. So many times we're like, oh, hey, Drew, where's Bob? Oh, our machine's crap. Bob's out there with it, but here I am with the bucket of fish. So those are circumstances where we look at it and go, okay, no problem. And then the cool thing about the UPL, one of the many things, is you have a whole slew of people that are willing to help. Now, they may want to get through weigh-in first. Don't get me wrong. They may say, you know what, hey, buddy, we'll go get your machine when the tournament's over.
Oh, yeah.
But then you got 15 people with their machines ripping out to you and leave no man left behind.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's pretty much how it works.
So really, if you're just trying to get into the sport, you need to have, like we said, the equipment, a good partner, strategy, and honestly, just some time. You need time.
Yeah.
You got to go pre-fish. Like they're not in down. Well, I guess you have Tonka this year, but like Pokagon was an hour out of town. Like go pre-fish a couple days, and then you'll probably do okay on tournament day.
We let the teams know May 1st where they're going to fish the following year. So many teams will spend time during the summer, open water, on said lakes, looking for weed beds.
Side scanning,
Correct. Looking for rock piles,
is there
cribs.
a cutoff on pre-fishing?
11:59 the night before. So they can pre-fish till 11:59 on Saturday night.
Are all the teams out there the day before?
Yeah.
They are.
They're out there grilling out during lunch.
So it's a weekend event.
There'll be teams out there. I know there was teams out there this past weekend that started checking things out.
Yeah.
And you'll see teams Thursday, Friday, Saturday are your big 3. Saturday, I'd say almost every team's out there checking things out, pre-fishing.
Very cool.
They all get together at lunch, grill out, share a little bit of information, but not enough to be dangerous. They'll definitely let you know. Like if you're like, dude, I haven't caught a fish, a couple teams are going to go, well, what are you doing? This is what I've done. Well, maybe you want to go check the weeds. I mean, they're going to give you stuff like that. They're not going to say, here's a waypoint. They're going to say, maybe get a little shallower.
One more good question. So live bait, all is good?
No problem.
Anything you want?
They don't ever use it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen maggots and waxworms, but I don't know if I've seen someone in the UPL bringing a bucket of minnows in years. But you do have meat. I mean, I think it's important, especially on the bluegill side of things.
Finicky bluegills.
Correct. It's tournament day. You do what it takes. And it was funny because Gazzoni and I were talking on Friday out there. He was out there with us. And someone, I think it was Thaner, was like, anyone bring meat? I'm like, I got a bait bucket in my pocket. I don't plan to use it. And then Gizzy was like, of course, tournament guy. Like everyone, and Gizzy's like, I do too. And we didn't use it, but it's just second nature. You got it in your pocket in case you need it.
It's funny so Tom and I went fishing like a week ago or something, or Christmas Eve, and we were going to like try to go catch some crappies in the basin. We ended up striking out, which we'll talk about that later in our second subject of today. But I'm like, we're going crappie fishing. Like I stopped at Quick Trip and they had like waxies. And I'm like, well, screw it. I'll bring some waxies. But I know for crappies, like, God, 95% of the time they are just so angry in the winter. You just got to find them and get that pinhead or tungsten and plastic in front of them. They're going to bite.
Yeah.
I didn't even bring my waxies out. I left them in my cup holder.
No. I fished the last 3 days and I never touched live bait.
But I went bluegill fishing on Saturday and Sunday and I brought it with. Actually, I caught a couple bluegills and I caught a nice walleye on it. So like, I don't know, maybe that helped. But in general, I don't think the fish really cared much about that tiny little waxy.
No.
He came in and just smoked it.
I think your big bluegills might. Obviously, I think some of your walleyes do. If you're tip of fishing, you kind of need to have it. So there's some scenarios where I'm definitely not saying poo-poo the live bait. But I would be confident that if I was just pan fishing the rest of this winter, I would be okay not bringing any live bait with me.
Yeah, but you'd feel really dumb though if you're on tournament day.
Correct.
And everyone's windmilling them using one spike or whatever waxy, and you don't have it.
It happens where you got to mush on a couple maggots on your hook just to get that bluegill to commit.
Yeah,
it makes all the difference in the world. And if you don't have it, you don't catch them.
Okay, well there you go. That's ice fishing tournament 101 right there. Anything else we're missing that's obvious?
No,
kind of it.
Yeah, bring fuel, food. Bring food, drinks, and something to eat, because the last thing you want to do at 11 o'clock when you got 3 hours ago is hear your stomach go boop. And simple stuff that doesn't upset your stomach.
Yeah.
You're probably bringing granola bars, power bars, Gatorades, beef jerky, things like that. Simple stuff, quick hitting. You can
I mean,
eat something.
Also, too, from what I've seen, like these guys are running around. Like you're going to break a sweat, even on probably the really cold days. Staying hydrated. Yeah. I know, like, think of like a athlete, like playing football, hockey, whatever. Like you need to be drinking water and Gatorade because it's a physical game.
Yeah.
Right. Like and I think of myself on the ice, I rarely ever drink water. Like I just forget about it because I'm cold and, sloshing around it. Why do I want to drink this stuff? And I don't know, your brain clicks better when you're hydrated.
And then driving home, you got a headache and you wonder why. You're like, well, I didn't drink much today.
Yeah. I had like a one Monster and, one bottle of water and a Gator or a granola bar. Yeah, that's probably not good for your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's tournament. That's kind of and the first tournament's this weekend, Sunday.
Right,
yep. Up at Pokegama.
Yep. So. Follow along on the Ultimate Panfish League Facebook page. We'll go live throughout the day.
Can you still sign up?
You could technically still sign up. We're trying to fill a few more spots. You need to commit to the whole league. We're not going to allow individual events. And I do that for a number of reasons. So we'll just fish with less teams this year if we don't fill the field. Versus allowing a team just to jump into one event. I don't want to take away from the teams that are committed to the entire thing so that a local ringer can come in and ping some money and take away points.
It's funny that you call it local ringer when all these guys know everything about
but
the lakes.
But what'll happen is somebody will find something special that week. They live in town. They'll pay their entry fee. And then you get a team that might be 2 hours away that dedicated time in the summer to pre-fish, time away from work this week, hotel rooms. Yeah. And to have somebody just jump in, I just don't think that's appropriate.
Yep,
I mean, I want to reward those who are committed to the league.
Yeah,
and I think it'll go further. I mean, and it's even the whole subbing thing comes under scrutiny. Like I can't make it this event, and then all of a sudden, boom, Adam Griffith shows up and fishes with somebody on Minnetonka, and they whoop on everybody, and it's like the rest of the teams are like, well,
yeah,
I don't know Adam. I couldn't get him.
So you can get one sub?
Each team gets 2 subs, and we do that for a multitude of reasons. One, people have lives. People get married. Someone gets sick. Kid is sick, and they can have somebody hop in. So we allow each team. So if you and I are a team, we get 2 subs.
Yep.
And the points still count.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're not going to allow individual events and just to avoid.
So most of the tournament, let's call it competitive panfish tournament, because there's a handful of leagues and one-offs out there. This is how they're run.
Correct. Yeah.
And this is not like you're fishing for ducks or the one on Gull Lake, like where it's
Brainerd JCs.
Brainerd JCs. This is competitive. This isn't just find a hole and
sit there and drink a Busch Light and put your feet up.
Yeah.
This
is different.
But I mean, that's entertaining too.
It is. Yeah, and I'm sure guys do it afterwards when they.
Oh yeah,
you know. But that's cool.
Yeah.
So if you're in competitive fishing, I think if you're in competitive bass fishing, which we know there are thousands across the state and country, you probably would excel to a certain degree in this. It's just a little colder. Different species. It's tougher on your body. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you're wounded mentally and physically when the day's done.
Yeah.
Well, watch the weigh-in this Sunday, 2:00. Weigh-in will be live on the Ultimate Panfish League Facebook page. People can check it out, see what everyone brings in. We do a lot of. Thane is our color commentary.
Yep.
And he goofs off with everybody and gets questions out of people, and so that'd be a good place to start. Is check out that or come out to an event. We're not asking people to stay home. If you want to come check it out, more than welcome. Don't bother the teams while they fish. We've had a few situations where people follow them around and fish next to them and want, just be respectful.
Yeah,
but
tournament
if you want to come to the weigh-in and watch and see, come on by.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And the grand prize is $500.
$500 this year. So, cause we're down a handful of teams. So 500, 350, 250, 150, 100 are your top 5. And then we got a slew of prizes,
bragging rights
and plaques for the winning team. Yes. So, the sponsors show out. We do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things given away at each event too.
Very cool. Well, awesome. Yeah, that's a good tournament fishing 101 if you're just getting into it or have an interest. But to kind of 180 to our next topic, this is not super competitive. We're talking like ice fishing 101 beginner, like where do you go to catch a fish? The reason I want to talk about this is because Tom and I went out on Christmas Eve thinking we're going to go catch some walleyes at daybreak and whatever. And long story short, we just got our teeth kicked in. I didn't catch a single fish. And looking back at it, I'm like, you know what? Well, we picked a very challenging thing to do for our first time ice fishing this year. And I'd like to think that we kind of know what we're doing, but we sucked.
Yeah.
If I'm just getting into the sport of ice fishing, that day might have turned me off to it.
Sure.
Maybe for good.
Yeah.
So like kind of going off that, like we talked about before, Matt, you're kind of going off to do your own thing, guiding.
Yeah.
The name of the guiding game is getting people on fish. Some guys don't want the challenge. They just want to go set the hook.
Yeah.
So like, let's talk a little bit about that. Like where would you go specifically to catch fish? What species are you going for? Like how far are you driving? Like what are you doing?
Take the layup. I mean, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everyone sets their goals every day on what they want to do. As a fishing guide, my focus is putting people on fish and teaching people how to catch fish. Now, you can't teach them how to catch fish if you're not on fish. So generally speaking, as most guides, they're going to put you on quantity.
Yeah.
Now you want to catch some quality. And I get a lot of trips where my clients that I've known are like, no, Matt, just take me to quality. No problem. We can do that too. But more than likely that client understands that I've done it many times. Yeah. You're not going to turn them off if the bite's not good. They get it. But generally speaking, a lot of my trips I've done this year already, I've had a lot of newbies on the ice. I took a gal from the Philippines, never been on the ice in her life. I'm thinking she's got to get on fish. Well, she caught a pile of fish in the first 15 minutes. I don't know if one of them was big enough to eat, but she didn't care. Yeah. She was taking pictures. She got a feel for the bite. She learned what a spring bobber was. She learned how to bait her hook.
You can walk on ice.
Yeah, she knew what the bite was like, what to look for. And after a half an hour, I was watching her hole hop, catching fish and giggling without the need of anyone else's help. So you want to look at stuff like that. So you want to look at lakes that have an abundance of fish. So I would always tell people in the wintertime, your crappies and your sunfish are king, especially where we live here in the Twin Cities. And I would argue any place across the ice belt. That's going to be your most plentiful fish. Now there's bodies of water that perch come into play. Well, we don't have big perch around the metro. So I kind of rule them out where we live because with all due respect to my buddy, the perch, it's a nuisance fish where we live. They're all 3 to 6 inches, right?
Yeah.
So I look for crappies and bluegills. I look for productive spots. You can oftentimes look at a lake map and give yourself a little bit of an idea of where you should be fishing. A lot of fish in the wintertime are going to relate to weeds or they're going to relate to the basin. The basin is where it flattens out off the second break usually, and it's their wintering, the community holes, right? If you see the slew of ice castles, they're on top of the basin. Now, This isn't me telling you to go park down in the middle of all these ice castles. Use that as a basis. Look at the map and say, why are these people there? They're probably there because the fish are sedentary, they're hanging out there all day, or it's a window bite. The crappie bite hits, they all crush. Use that as a basis. Now get on the outside of them and start looking for these schools of fish. Mm-hmm. So for me in the wintertime, you want to get on top of biting fish. You want to hone in your skills. You want to understand how this game's played. You want to catch some fish and learn how to use your gear if you've never done it. I think that's something a lot of people overlook. They just go out in the lake, they cut a hole, they strike out, and they go, well, this sport's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And I think you want to avoid that. So you want to...
I think, I'm very stubborn, I would like to think, a lot of times with fishing, especially when I was getting into ice fishing or bass, whatever it is. Like, I like to figure it out on my own because I'll suck 9 times out of 10, but the 10th time when I figure it out, it's great. But I also do a lot of dumb things. Like, when I was first getting into ice fishing, I was on Clearwater Lake, actually, and I was
It's a good lake.
It was a great lake. I went out of the Black
Pool
access, and I'm like, man, I need to get out to the main lake because, I might catch a walleye. Like, there's structure out there. I've open water fished. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, God, there's some houses over here, like I'm going to set up by these houses. These guys must know what they're doing. And I ended up setting up by a lot of houses that were painted black and didn't have windows. And I'm like
trying to get a pike?
Yeah. So I drilled a hole, we set up. I didn't even check my depth. And I'm like, I'm in like 5 or 6 feet. And I'm like, you know what? I just set up to walleye and crappie fish by a bunch of spear shacks. I'm like, geez, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
The bluegills might have been there.
We saw some bluegills and some perch, but in general, like that was something that I'm like, I just completely wasted a Saturday setting up by a bunch of spear shacks trying to catch panfish. Yeah. Like some lakes are easier than others. Take a lake there's one lake we fished in college a lot in southern Minnesota. It was just a round bowl, 15 feet deep, no structure, ice castles it was like a mini red lake, right? And you could kind of go anywhere and have a chance at catching fish. A little dirtier, not super clear. They would bite all day.
Sure.
Like we had more fun on that lake just because we set hooks and anyone could catch it. It wasn't a prime time window, not a weed edge. Like you just had to go there and just drill a hole.
Yeah.
Like that's fun.
I think we oftentimes poo-poo the lakes that are stunted because we chase the bigger fish. And I get it. At some point, if you're listening, many of you probably are already at this point. It's what you want to do, right? You want to go find bigger fish. I totally get it. But if you're getting into it, which is kind of how we started this segment, don't be afraid to fish the lakes that have stunted fish because you're going to be catching fish. You're going to be marking fish. You're going to be understanding what the bite feels like. You're going to pick up the nuances of ice fishing. Mm-hmm. You cannot do that if you're not on top of fish.
Yeah, you have to be.
I don't care what you have. So even if you're catching 5 and 7 inch bluegills and 6 and 9 inch crappies, but you're on top of these fish and you're learning, it helps you broaden your horizons on the sport of ice fishing. Then you tiptoe. It's like lifting weights, right? Weird analogy, but you'll understand. You're not benching 225 if you've never done it, right? You're probably starting with a little weight and you're building and you're growing, you're getting stronger and you're getting used to it and you continue to progress, right? It's a similar thing with ice fishing if you've never done it, if you're just getting into it.
Yep.
If you're just getting into ice fishing, you think you're going to go out there and catch 6 to 10 pound walleyes all the time or 1 pound crappies all the time. It's not going to happen. Because we don't even do that and we fish a lot. You want to look at it as baby steps. Figure out your goals for each day. Set short-term goals if you're just getting into ice fishing. Short-term goals. Okay.
Yep.
My first time out, I want to understand how all my stuff works. That might be your first goal. I don't know how to run these electronics.
Drill a hole.
I don't know how to feel a bite. I need to make sure I dial in my tackle. Am I using too big a hook? What pound test line? So do some of that stuff and then get on top of fish. Maybe the local wintering hole down the street that everybody fishes is the place to start.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Don't look at a Lake Minnetonka and think you're going to go to the middle of Main Lake and catch fish. Go to Carson's Bay.
Yeah. Roll right down to the community spots and learn how to become better at ice fishing.
100%, man.
And then maybe you tell yourself on month 2, I'm going to go fish 3 lakes I've never been to. You know what? And they might be nice lakes. There might be big fish in them. I might get my teeth kicked in. I don't know. But that's how you learn. That's how you begin to learn and get better. And then you network. The cool thing about fishing is we have such a phenomenal network. You're listening to this probably via a social media platform of some kind, right? Or that's how you found out. You have this network, this tool at your fingertips to find other like-minded people to go fishing with. And now next thing you know, I may call Drew and say, hey dude, like I'm not doing well on the crappies. And you might say, I'm pounding them on this lake right now. You want to go crappie fishing? And you might say, hey man,
some lakes
I haven't caught a nice walleye in a while. So you build that network off of each other and try to feed on what's working and what's not working, and you expand. But I think the biggest thing is where we live here in the Twin Cities, we're extremely spoiled. Maybe you're listening to this and you're in, I don't know, someplace in Michigan or New York. I don't know.
Yeah.
But where we live, there is a lake down the street about every direction you look.
Yeah.
And most of these lakes are going to have some fish in them. Again, it might be tiny bluegills and crappies, but that's where you can start.
Yeah.
And that's where you can get better at the sport.
When Tom and I went fishing the other day, the lake was like it was like gin clear water, I think. That's at least what the lake report said. Like mostly basin. And man, the fish were spooky. We couldn't get on top of them. I'm like, why did we do this? We should have gone to the dirty lake because they're less spooky. There's more forage. The fish are used to eating more. They don't get scared. Like we should just set some hooks, man.
Yeah.
We messed up.
Yeah. And one cool thing I've learned, I've been using that Onyx fish app. It's neat. And the reason I like that app and this style of information in general is how we were trained growing up. You looked at a lake map, you went to Lake Finder on the DNR website, and you try to put the pieces together. Okay, is this lake worthy of my time? And that's not meant to be an egotistical comment. Does it even have the species that we're targeting? How big are they? When was the survey data? What does the lake look like? How deep is it? How accessible is it? Is there current? There's all these things you have to take into consideration as you plan your day of fishing. And what OnX did, which I think is cool, is they put all that information in one spot. So if you're just getting into the world of fishing, now you can look at this app and go, oh, that lake down the street, Lake X, Y, or Z. I didn't know this. It's got walleyes in it. Oh, wow, crappies. Oh, above average size. So now you can start to do some of the homework. That's a pretty decent lake map. There's a lot of programs out there that have pretty good lake maps. But you can start to do your homework, take away some of the guesswork. You can also look at, okay, there's the access. Because you may not have a machine. If you're just getting into ice fishing, you might be on foot. So the next thing you want to consider is, do you want to go to a 4,000 acre lake when you're on foot for the first time? Probably not. Go look at one of these 300 acre lakes that have a bunch of panfish in them and start there because, oh, hey, look, there's a beach right there by that main basin. I can walk out from the beach and hopefully be on some fish. So there's tools like Onyx Fish that allow us to get all this information at our fingertips, which I think is vitally important on not striking out the day you want to go fishing.
Yeah. I've always been a big nerd on Rec Compass and Lake Finder for Minnesota specifically. Really big nerd on that stuff as far as looking at old surveys and fish species.
But it works.
It works really well. And I have obviously no ties to Onyx Fish, but I have it on my phone, and I was looking the other day. What kind of I thought was the most interesting thing about it is they actually have like little notes that tell you about certain areas on lakes. For example, I'm looking at Minnetonka right now, which is right down the road from us. Spot number 26, West Arm.
Yep.
This is leading into, what's that little bay back there? Forest. It says the shoreline along the north side of West Arm is a good early season area for largemouth bass, walleyes, pike, and muskies. Concentrate on areas of new weed growth. Look for walleyes in the rock and weed bar just outside of the entrance of Forest Lake. The bar tops off at around 5 feet, and the fish will relate to the deep edges off the bar.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, that is correct. That just doesn't tell me like how many walleyes they surveyed on, who knows what bay. I'm like, that is.
It gives you places to start.
Who wrote that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of little notes like that. It's mostly on the bigger lakes that I've seen so far that I'm like, well, they're pretty dialed on that.
Yeah.
Like that's the little tidbit that you might scour the forums or reports forever not find.
Yeah. And that's stuff that app's out there for you to have a better experience on the ice or in the water. And that's the idea. And I think it's funny because I was looking at that app a month or two ago, and I learned some things about some lakes nearby that I didn't even know. Like I would never have considered maybe that lake for that specific purpose or reason. And I'm like, I'll be darned. So then I start researching and asking people, have you been on such and such lake? And they're like, who told you? I'm like, what? They're like, oh yeah, don't tell nobody. Like, it's been good. I'm like, what? Like, so it probably, and I joke about the Onyx Fish app. It may have more information than we want people to have.
Yeah.
And kudos to Onyx Fish, but there's stuff in there there's gems in there that you would not have thought about.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have, and you're like, no, everybody's going to see this, right? But it's all information that's public.
It's all public.
It's not like any information is secret.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like they take the DNR, the surveys, they take the plot maps, and they just overlay it into one deal.
Yeah. They're not putting information on there because Billy Bob, their neighbor, told them about some double secret lake. No, they're getting tangible information that anyone can find if they look for it. Yeah.
Yep.
Correct. Just made it easier for everybody.
Yeah. So I know that's a good tool. So let's do a little exercise here, Matt. If you had to pick one lake, we're in the Twin Cities.
Okay.
If you had to pick one lake on the west side, north of the Twin Cities, east and south, to tell someone this is where you go, catch a fish, have a great time. Let's spill the beans here. These are probably community spots anyway, so it's not a big deal.
I mean, West Metro, you're going to probably want to go. Probably go to Minnetonka, and you can get on Carson's Bay. There's a good spot. You can go on Black. You can go on Grays, Phelps, North Arm. There's spots around that lake that are very accessible. Plenty of parking. You can walk out to them. Now, you might not light the world on fire and catch the biggest fish of your life, but you're going to have a darn good time, or you're going to set some hooks.
Yeah.
So Minnetonka is vast, intimidating, but don't let it be. Treat each bay like its own individual lake. And now, instead of tens of thousands of yards of shoreline and all this stuff, you're down into a few 100-acre lakes, right? So that's what I was typical. So that's one I would definitely look at.
Crappies are going to bite
Medicine
probably after dark.
Is underappreciated.
A lot of
Medicine
gills.
Lake, full of bluegills, full of crappies,
Pike.
Great tip-up lake.
Yep.
So there's another lake right by Minnetonka, a little further north. Medicine Lake, I think, doesn't get near enough attention.
Yep.
And you're going to catch some fish for dinner.
Yep.
You're going to catch some halfway decent ones. So those are two, I think, West Metro. Waconia, slam dunk. In-town Marine, there's a bait shop there. Talk to the guys there. They'll dial you in with what you need for bait. They'll even draw some spots on a lake map for you to go out and fish. They plow roads. They do the whole 9 yards. So there's 3 easy slam dunks on the west side of town. As you go north, I would encourage you to go a little further north. Head up 35. You got the whole slew of lakes by Chisago. Lindstrom's, Green.
I just drove by there
Centers.
yesterday. I went to Frankie's on Saturday morning.
There you go. You can get bait at Frankie's. You can get information. They'll probably mark up a spot on a lake map for you to go try as well. There's another bait shop right there off Highway 8 when you get on to your right by the Holiday gas station. Yep. Plenty of places to stop to get snacks. You could hit Forest Lake, which is just south of there, full of fish, crappies, bluegills.
Yep.
Plenty of accesses, places to walk out to catch fish and beyond stuff. Cool. So Chisago Chain Forest Lake. Let's see, south of town, Pryor. Pryor is another slam dunk where there's plenty of places to get on the ice. Lots of panfish. You have a shot at a walleye, a tip up for pike, winter accesses that are beaten down and plowed out for you to get around. So if we get a lot of snow, that can be good. There's a slew of lakes down.
I would say
Faribault area.
I think we should say Washington. We've both fished
by Mankato.
By Mankato.
Yep. The presidential lakes.
There's a lot of there's a lot of houses out there, and they're all around fish. You know, sometimes the day are better than others. You know, low light, whatever. You might catch a walleye, some more crappies, but like they're catching fish.
All those presidential lakes full of fish. Washington, Jefferson, German, Gorman, Madison, Francis.
So fishy.
They're all full of fish, and you can get out there. There's spots you can get to easily, and you'll make a day of it. So I mean, there's so many great. There are hundreds of fish.
The St. Croix we were just talking
about.
St.
Croix can be fishy. Now you want to be careful on the river systems because you don't want to get caught up with the current.
That's where you're going to want to talk to locals, bait shops. Where do you access the river?
Yeah.
What these people are fishing for? Don't drive past that point.
Bald eagle is a slam dunk if you want to get your hands on some crappies. Now you might not catch a 2-pounder. You're going to catch a lot of 6 to 10 inchers, but you're going to get on them. They're predictable. They're in the basins. They're in the holes. You can catch them on Bald Eagle, White Bear Lake. Those are 2 other lakes that a lot of people like to jump onto and catch some fish. But what I would encourage you, regardless of the lakes we mentioned, all these will work. Do a little homework. Look at the lake that's down the street from you. You may live in, I don't know, down by Burnsville. You might live over by Bloomington. You might live up wherever. There might be a little lake 4 miles down the road, that's 450 acres that, there's crappies in there. There's a fishing pier.
Oh, yeah.
Good sign that there's some fish in that lake that you might want to catch. So go explore. Yeah. Get your auger, go hit it. It's a lot easier to break down these smaller lakes than the bigger ones.
Yep.
And it's a lot easier to see what people are doing. So a lot of opportunity.
I'll cover a 40-acre lake a lot faster than a 4,000-acre lake.
There's a lot of opportunity to go chase down some fish.
And if you're going to like some bigger lakes, we've talked about Lake of the Woods a handful of times. Like that's a fish catching factory.
Yep.
Like if you only get to go one time a year and it's like a boys trip or who knows what it is. Like,
going next week.
Yeah.
Going next Friday through Monday. Yeah.
Even Matt's like, the family needs to set hooks.
Yeah. I don't have to bring an auger. I don't have to bring a fish house. I just rip up. I mean, and we just go through a Sportsman's or a Board Review or something like that, and we rent their shacks.
Yep.
The holes are cut, the bait's sitting there, and you're on fish.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, that's going to be your layup in terms of like an easy destination. And we've talked about these already, but that's just an easy layup. You just show up there, get yourself a couple walleye rods, get some 5 or 6 pound test line, get some rattling PT spoons, get some hooks, get some baits, whatever. Don't overthink it and go up there and go fishing.
Yeah. So in general, to avoid having terrible first outings, whether it's the first time of the year like me, or maybe your first time ever ice fishing, don't pick the biggest, most structured lake that has super clear water and finicky fish. Take the layup, dirty, smaller lakes, maybe less structure. There's probably, a handful of houses out there you've seen. You don't need to have, the best day of ice fishing ever.
Yeah.
Right? Just ease into it.
Yeah. Don't slap 2 plates on the side of your weight.
Yeah.
Don't slap 225.
225 on your bench press.
Yeah. Start with the bar. Start with the bar and feel good about yourself.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the stuff that'll hook you for life and not turn you off. I mean, I don't know.
There's a lot of opportunity in ice fishing. I mean, here's the beauty of this year. We had good ice. I know everyone's bummed about the rain we just got. I get it. Don't worry. We're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
We're going to be just fine. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity to chase some fish. So don't overthink it if you're just getting into it, and use the resources. Ask questions on social media. If you're at a sporting goods store, ask the associates things that are working, not working in that area. If you pull up to Joe's or Thorne Brothers or wherever here in the Twin Cities, they're pretty darn good on what's going on, probably in that 20-mile radius. Yep. And I guarantee you, next to Thorne Brothers, Joe's, or anyone, there are lakes in the area. Be like, hey, what's going on right now? What's working? What should I be doing? And they're going to walk you through some options, whether it's the right jig, the right color, what to do, how to approach it, maybe the time of day. They're going to help you catch fish. Yeah. Use those tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the best resource, is just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know ice fishermen in general like to be stingy and, hold secrets, but let's be real. Like, we're here to help everyone out. And I mean, it feels good to help people out and put them on fish. And oftentimes, like these are probably community holes that we were talking about, your Tonkas, your medicines. Like, it's not the end of the world if you point someone in the right direction. Like, be a good guy.
Yeah, there's plenty of fish. I promise you that one person's not going to go catch them all.
No, they will not.
I've learned that a long time ago. I mean,
it's probably good for them to catch a lot of fish in these stunted lakes anyways.
Oh, yeah. I get a lot of clients that ask me when we go fishing, can I mark this spot? And I say, knock yourself out. I mean, we'll go for it. I mean, like, the whole idea behind it is that you want somebody to go out there, experience something positive. You want them to enjoy the sport, and I think that sometimes is underappreciated. And I always look at it as a fishing guide. If I take you to Minnetonka and I take you to an inside turn and you go catch 3 walleyes, and if that's the only spot I have in my sleeve, I should probably find a new profession. So if you want to come back out there and lean in that spot a couple times, I've also known over the years, as you do, Drew, there's a good chance next year they're not going to be there. Now there's some spots for sure that are cyclical, and every year they come back and they use them at certain times, right? But these resources, as long as we do our part as anglers to be respectful, selective harvest, number of things, right? I'm not going to get on my soapbox and preach, but we get it. If we do all these things, I'm not concerned one bit about somebody finding out about a spot that I'm fishing. Yeah. In fact, I've been probably guilty of it by giving away too much information. Like, go out there, fish that break, go onto the north side of the break, because for some reason that's where they want to be. And that person goes out there, they have a great experience, they catch fish, and guess what? They want to keep fishing. They want to continue the sport that we all love, that we live in, that we play in, that we make a living off of. So I want people to go
there's
out there
probably
and have a good time.
2 types of anglers who are just getting into it as well. I would say I was from the type where like for Christmas I got my suit, I got an auger, I got a house, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like parents spent $500 on me, like your time to shine, buddy.
Good luck, go.
Either
kicked
sink
out of
or
the
swim.
nest.
Exactly. Or you could be like the angler who I might, I don't have any of this stuff. Like I'm gonna be wasting my money if I buy an auger. Like I'm just gonna hire a guide.
Yeah.
And then they either get hooked on it or do you think most of them get hooked on it, or some guys?
I think so. I think,
I don't know.
And hiring a guide is a good place to start, because you usually get put on fish. Or go to a friend that does it.
Yeah, exactly.
You may have a buddy that's like, hey, Drew, you fish
sure.
all the time. Can I take along one Saturday? And you're probably going to say, yeah, no problem. Do you have a good pair of bibs? And then they're going to start going, oh, no, I need that. Like, well, they're going to start checking their list off. So if you're listening or watching for the first time and you want to get into ice fishing, you probably have a friend that does it.
Yeah.
That with a simple, hey, you know what? You mind if I take along one afternoon? I try not to get in your way. They're going to go, sure, why not? What I got to lose?
I would say keep pestering that friend too.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, I have some buddies who are like, oh, let's go fishing. And I'm like, yeah, dude, let's go whenever. And then like I don't hear from them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, just stay on it. Like, we'll go.
Yeah.
We just I just forget to ask you, because like it might be my one day where I get to fish by fish by myself, and I just want to go, or whatever. If you forget about it, so keep pestering them.
Yeah.
But I guess in general, just getting at, like, I don't know. I grew up like learning how to do it on my own, I would say, for a lot of things. And I've had a lot of times where I've just stunk it up.
Yeah.
And I almost like that, because like I've said before, it makes me so much happier when I figure it out. But I know for a lot of people, they probably just say, screw it.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
Yep.
So,
keep an open mind. And the beauty of fishing, and we've said this before, is it's something you can do forever.
Oh yeah.
Where like your hockey days, football days, soccer days, whatever, they're going to come to an end. Correct. And I think fishing, like I was just talking to Mikey Roger before this podcast. He was literally just talking to us. And no knock on Mike. He's wonderful. But Mike's retired. He's older than us. He's in his fishing prime.
Yeah.
That dude is catching them all the time. He is on fish. And if you ask him 20 years ago, he fished when he could, because he had a job. He was tied up.
Comes down to
He's
time.
now in his prime.
His time.
How many people at his age, with all due respect, Mike, are going to look you in the eye and say, I'm in my football prime or my hockey prime?
Not even Tom Brady.
Not a chance.
Commentating.
He's now in his fishing prime, where he's got time, he's got the resources, he's got the knowledge, he's got the know-how, and he's crushing fish. So that's something to consider as you look into this as an investment. You may go, oh my gosh, like that, I got to spend $1,000 to get ready for, oh man, Well, if you do it right, this is something you're going to be investing in for the decades ahead of you.
Yes.
So that's just my little rant.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. Well, I think that's kind of the 2 topics we wanted to cover today.
Yeah, it's fun.
2 different ends of the spectrum: hardcore tournament ice fishing and beginners 101. I feel like we oftentimes get stuck in the middle. Talking about guys who, they know what they're doing. They might want to get on the next bite, but they're not. Excuse me. They're not like this side where they're hardcore tournament, top of the pinnacle type stuff, but they're also not first time ever ice fishing. Right. So it's good to touch on those 2 topics.
I agree.
So
heck yeah.
That's episode number 55.
The last one of the year.
Last one of the year. And Matt, even though you are leaving Clam, you'll still be on some podcast here and there.
We'll be rocking podcasts still.
It's not like I have to twist your arm to talk fishing. That's not too hard to do. Yeah, and we'll get some more stuff from Durham up in northern Minnesota. So he's got like the little ASMR social media clips going on.
I saw that.
Durham might be onto something new. He's got the wheels are always spinning in his head. He's like cracking ice and recording the sound.
Oh yeah, that sounds like Durham.
It does, honestly.
Oh, God bless him. We love you, Jason.
Yeah, I like the Durham podcast. He's more laid back and chill, and he's got that the Durham mentality going.
Heck yeah.
So
I'll definitely be on this again with everybody. Don't worry about that. And thank you so much for listening to 55 episodes at this point.
Yes.
This is fun. We enjoy this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've had some phenomenal people on the show. We're going to have more phenomenal people on the show as we go with this. And enjoy your new year. Have a great time. And next time we talk to you, it'll be 2025.
Yahtzee. Bingo. 2025.
You got it.
Matt will be guiding.
I'll be guiding. Come on out. Catch some fish with me.
There we go. Episode 55 in the books.